Alright, so welcome back again. We're going to continue this video series on solving equations. So hopefully you found the videos prior to this one helpful. We left off on this example here where we looked at a square root equation and we jotted down everything that was being done to the variable that we were interested in this case, x. Um, and this is really the whole idea of solving equations in general is that you're trying to undo whatever was being done to the variable that you're trying to solve for. Uh, but in this example, we're going to look at something very similar, but we're not really going to write all this down. I mean, you definitely can if you like, but we're going to go ahead and do something, I'm going to show a different approach here on how to solve this equation. The first thing to do is to understand, well, what is being done to x, just like we did in the previous example. Well, it looks like we're multiplying here. We're multiplying x by 2, and then we're taking a square root, and then we're adding 5, and we're ending with 13. So my question would be, well, how do I undo this 5 here? How do I undo the addition of 5? Well, I can go ahead and subtract 5 on both sides. So I would take away 5. And now this right here is going to go ahead and reduce if I go ahead and combine my terms vertically. And so all that's left, I'm going to bring everything down. I'm left with the square root of 2x. So square root of 2x is equal to, and then 13 take away 5, that is simply just 8. Now the question is, well, you have a square root of 2x, so how do I undo that square root? Well, to undo the square root, I can simply just square both sides. So if I square both sides right there, what's going to end up happening here is that the square root and the square will undo each other. They're inverse operations. So I'm just going to be left with whatever's in the inside, which is a 2x. Here I'm going to be left with 8 squared. Well, 8 squared is simply just 64. And so again, I am now multiplying x by 2. So how do I undo that division by 2? I'm sorry, how do I undo that multiplication by 2? I'm thinking ahead here. Well, I can simply just divide by 2, and whatever I do to the left side, I have to do it to the right side. So there we go. Now these 2's are going to go ahead and reduce, leaving us with just x on the left, and 64 divided by 2 is simply just 32. So we've gone ahead, or we've went ahead and solved this equation. So x is 32. Now again, you could have done this the other way. You could have listed out everything. So we had the square root of 2x plus 5 equals 13. Now I'm not going to go through this whole process, but I'm going to write down some things here and just kind of show you that what we did here is the same thing. It's the same thing that we did in this example here. So let's ask ourselves, well, what's being done with x? Well, remember we got to start somewhere. So we're going to start with x. What is being done to x? Well, we're multiplying by 2. So we're multiplying by 2. And then after we multiply by 2, it looks like we take a square root. So take the square root. And then after we take a square root, it looks like we're adding 5. So step 4 would be to add 5. And then after we add 5, it looks like we come to an end. That's the end of our equation, and we end with 13. Well, if you look at all the steps that we've done, so the first step that we did was we're going to start with 13 and we're going to work our way up. Well, I added 5. So how do you undo addition by 5? Well, you subtract 5. That's exactly what we did right there. Then in the next step, we took a square root. It says we take a square root. So how do you undo a square root? Well, we square both sides, and that's exactly what we did here. And then finally, we're multiplying by 2. So how do you undo multiplying by 2? Well, we divide by 2, and that's exactly what we did here. And if you do these steps correctly, we should end with our variable x, which is what we have right here. So again, by writing things out, it might make it a little easier for you if you're just starting out with solving equations like these to kind of jot down exactly what is being done to x here.